October Red is sponsored by SA Security. Maximum security, minimum fuss.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Sorry for the husky voice. I literally jumped out of bed this morning. But welcome back. It's one of our reviews. I don't know what number we're up to. I'd rather not label them as a number. But this one's entitled Boxer New Broadcast Deal Announced. So for this I need to obviously go onto my socials. So we all had an embargoed message last night from Boxer to announce their new broadcaster deal, which is, as rumoured, BBC. So I'll read you out the content of the email for those that don't know yet or haven't seen the socials. BBC Sport and Boxer today announce a new broadcast deal that will see live, world-class professional boxing return to Saturday night primetime television and BBC iPlayer on a free-to-air basis. Selected undercard fights, featured and behind-the-scenes content will also be available across the BBC iPlayer, BBC Sport website and app, BBC Sounds and the BBC Sport social channels. A lot of BBC there. The new deal opens boxing up to all audiences, making the sport more accessible than ever. Full details on the first fight undercard and BBC Sport presenting team will be announced in the coming weeks. Alex K. Izitelski, director of BBC Sport, said, "Bringing professional boxing back to primetime BBC television, free to air, and to our extensive digital platforms is an exciting moment for us and for boxing fans. Boxing is a sport that we know deeply resonates with younger audiences, and this deal with Boxer enables us to showcase the next generation of British fighters, delivering top-tier national boxing moments to all audiences, wherever and however they want it." Ben Shalom, founder and CEO of Boxer, said, "Partnering with the BBC to deliver big-time British boxing on Saturday night TV is a historic moment. We're proud to bring the most entertaining British fighters to the biggest possible audience. This huge platform will give us our fights the exposure they deserve and help us take the sport to a huge new audience." Okay, interesting. A lot of words in there. Selected undercard fights, features and behind the scenes content will also be available across the BBC iPlayer and the BBC Sport website and app, BBC Sounds and the BBC Sport social channel. I wonder how many fights we're going to see. They said that it's returned to Saturday nights. How many fights are we going to get? One a month, two a month, one every 2 months, one every 3 months? How's it going to work? I'll be interested to know who the presenting team will be. And guys, you can breathe out slowly. I haven't been asked to be part of that team. I think they're going to choose from in-house BBC presenters anyway. One of the things that Boxer did do that I liked is they had different types of presenters, like younger presenters, not necessarily known presenters, to like the mainstream. But the world is changing, so I'll be very interested to see who's part of that team. You guys, you need to let me know what you think in your thoughts, and post that in the comments below. BBC iPlayer. I'm just doing some quick research. Subscribers. Gonna have a look. And see if there's anything Right, BBC iPlayer has around 14.1 million average weekly active accounts. A significant portion of iPlayer users are under 35, with 4.1 million accounts registered to this age group. In 2023-24, 48% of under 16s use obviously the younger channels for obviously education. Okay. So overall, let's have a look. Well, that's who under 16s are concentrating on. So yeah, 14.1 million average weekly active accounts. So, Sky Sports numbers. I'm just doing this off the cuff, just to get a comparison. Subscription numbers. 26.7 million, so slightly less. So we've got 14.1, BBC iPlayer 26.7, with Sky Sports. DAZN subscription numbers, let's have a look at theirs. Theirs is global, 20 million globally. The platform also has a broadcaster user base of 60 million, with 300 million monthly viewers across its various channels and platforms. So paying subscribers, 20 million. Total users, and these are the ones that are obviously going to jump in for the pay-per-view, are 60 million and 300 million. So to be fair, DAZN, and you know, the others I'm doing on a UK basis, but DAZN has got some really good numbers. So yes, 14.1 million is still a decent amount of watchers, decent amount of eyes for these fighters. The question is, which fighters are staying and which fighters are going? That is the £64,000 question, because no one really knows that. We've seen that boxers been putting up their highlights of certain fighters. I mean, I think they wished, you know, Fraser Clark, one of their initial signings as well, a happy birthday yesterday. Let me just have a look and see what fighters they've focused on in the past few weeks while they seem to be building up towards this announcement. If you follow me on socials, I did say I expected them to announce something this week. I just had a feeling. I know why I had the feeling. It didn't come out of nowhere, and it's to do with my story views on Instagram. I'll let you do the maths. Right, let's have a look. So they're still posting Adam Azim, Fraser Clark, Fran Hennessy, Chris Billam-Smith, Karis Artinstall, Ben Whittaker. I think there's a bit of a grey area on that. Not that I know anything at all, but I have asked Frank Smith about Ben Whittaker a few times, to be fair. I've even asked Eddie about him, so there's a bit of a grey area on him. I'm not sure what he's doing. Callum Simpson, they've posted. Vidal Riley, I think a piece that he's done with KSI. Caroline Dubois, they may have posted before as well. Lauren Price, I think they put her as the face of the announcement. BBC Sports will show live boxer fights. And I think they wanted to make it clear that, you know, there was a bit of a slander saying, oh, it's iPlayer, it's iPlayer. So it is iPlayer, but it's BBC Sport on iPlayer. I couldn't tell you the last time I watched iPlayer. Please, guys, put in the comments when the last time when was the last time you watched it? And I want to see if there's any other boxing promoters on BBC. I'm doing this all let's have a look. Secured. Yeah, it only looks like it's Boxer at the moment. Maybe that's because it's the top news. Yeah, it's all BBC. Let me try and put BBC broadcast. Yeah, it's just the Boxer one that comes up at the top. There may be other, like I said, I don't watch BBC Sport, so I don't know what other broadcasters are on there. I've heard potentially Eddie mention some other boxing broadcasters, but yeah, it's quite interesting. We'll have to see how it goes. I'm sure they'll have some kind of launch party where they'll invite their favourites. I don't know if that's in the budget. They'll invite some of their favourites to come along, get the interviews. I have been pestering Ben Shalom for quite some time now to get an interview. Maybe I'll finally be able to get one from him, because he's obviously sat there silently, working away in the background. What I do like is the fact that, yeah, they've lost the deal with Sky. Sky didn't want to renew. They had the 4 years with Sky. I've always said that probably didn't work out well due to budgeting, due to just not managing the money the way that they should have managed it and secured maybe a better return. I think I've been quite open and said that I believe Ben was already trying to keep up with the leading promoters instead of potentially focusing on building strong foundations for his fighters. So Sky maybe would have turned around and said, yeah, let's run it again. That's my personal opinion. I will say that to him when I see him. I'm not one for saying things on here and then going silent when I see the person that I'm talking about. So I think that may be part of the issue. But what I will say, and it's a credit to Ben, he's not gone out like a punk. He's found another way. He's found another broadcast. And people can turn their nose up and say, oh, it's BBC iPlayer, it's this, it's that. He's still got a broadcaster. Yes, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what their budget is. I don't know, based on their budget, how many of the fighters that they can keep, how many shows they can put on a year. All of this is the proof that will eventually be shown in the BBC Boxer pudding. And we're all going to taste that very soon. So I'm not going to turn my nose up at it. I'm going to say fair play to Ben Shalom for fighting, for staying in there, for not carrying away and walking away. As so much of us, even I thought, is he going to walk away? If he starts losing his fighters, if he starts losing his key fighters, you know, how's he going to cope? Why didn't he go to DAZN? Everyone goes to DAZN. Is it that bad that DAZN didn't even want him? All of these questions going around in my head when I don't necessarily know the facts, but when you don't know the facts, you're left to speculate. You almost have these hypotheses of what you believe has happened because you've got no evidence to the contrary, as I like to put it. But it's a new beginning. Midnight, 1 minute past midnight this morning, we all got saying the green light to send out the promotional information, the broadcast information throughout our social media platforms, and that's what we did, and that's why we're discussing this now. I need your help, guys, because sometimes when I sit, I'm not necessarily on the inside, But if you look, there's an inner tight circle. So that's the promotional companies themselves. Then outside that, there's a clique of media that will be privy to some things, that will know things before others. Then there's probably another outer ring, and I'd say I sit in that. So I'm close, but I'm not that close. I hear things. I don't like to talk about things that are not necessarily substantiated yet, but if I've got a strong feeling about them, I will mention it. Hence the reason why me continuously mentioning Frank Smith and Matchroom, because we have probed him about Ben Whittaker. And then there's the outer circle, which are the fans of the sport, and I sort of like drifting between the two. So I need your eyes on this. What do you think? Which fighters do you think will stay? Do you think all of them that are left will stay? Because the only one that's jumped ship is Joshua Buatsi, who's gone over to Queensberry. I'm not just hearing that it's Matchroom looking at fighters. I'm hearing that it's Golden Boy looking at fighters. It's not just Queensberry. So I hear a little bits and bobs, but I want to know what you think. Because at the end of the day, you and I are the ones that are going to be watching these fights. BBC iPlayer, free to air. So what does that mean then? No more pay-per-view? Pay-per-view determines the pay for the fighters. So if it's free to air, how's that going to work? There's so many different things that are going to work around the budget. If you've only got a certain budget, can you afford the expensive fighters? Is Ben saying to his fighters, stay with me, believe me? Yeah, it's tough times. It's not what it was, but we're going to make the best of it. We're going to make you stars. And that way the money will come in. Are the fighters expected to land some, I don't know, super sponsorship deals like, say, the UFC used to do it? The fighters weren't necessarily paid that much, but they'd get money from sponsors. Are they encouraged to do that? Just like the Formula One racers as well. I know they're very handsomely paid, but they do have external sponsors too that pay them well, that look after them. Is this something that's going to be encouraged? You know? A lot of these questions I can ask Ben Shalom myself, and I really do intend to. I know he'll start speaking soon, but he's probably going to go through certain channels first. He's done his little media release there with BBC in connection with their director. I think there may be some kind of launch dinner or something. I probably won't be invited to that, but who knows? But it'd be interesting to just hear the ins and outs, for him to confirm the fighters. You know, the rumours are that BBC iPlayer doesn't pay that much. Is that false? Are they going to be able to sustain the type of level of show? Are they going to be able to sustain the pockets of the fighters? Or, like I said, are they going to have to introduce other things like large sponsorship deals? So many questions. But the most important thing is, Ben Shalom didn't go out like a punk. Yeah, he's got a deal. We're going to see his fighters back out there again. And we wish him all the best, because that's what we do here. I always like to say, you know, when people are so heavy to criticise, it's like, what are you doing? You know? Sometimes I have to have a word with myself and say, girl, what have you actually done compared to these guys? Yes, of course, it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to be inquisitive about stuff, but sometimes being judgmental and you're not in their shoes, or you don't know all the ins and outs of everything. It's so easy for us to, you know, sit behind a keyboard, me sitting behind a microphone and a camera, recording my opinion that sometimes some people will listen to. but I'm not actually doing the hard work. I'm not the one that's trying to salvage fighters. I'm not the one that's saying, look, I believe in you. I need you to believe in me. Yes, I know we're going up against DAZN. I know we're going up against any other broadcaster. I know that we've now left Sky. I know that our budget has potentially decreased, but you've got to stay with me. Do you know how hard that'll be? Especially in the world of social media, where at a drop of a hat, even before that hat hits the floor, the news hits the public. So I'd love to have your opinion on what you think is going to happen. How many fights do you think they're going to have a year? What fighters do you think they're going to keep, etc., etc.? If there's any of you that have any ins to potential boxing budgets and how much they can spend, and please feel free to put it in the comments. You guys are excellent with the comments. I enjoy reading them. I had a lot as well as we move over. Just going to cover. I did a conversation, obviously, with Don Charles. Went down to his gym. Had a good time down there. Made to feel very, very welcome. And spoke to Don Charles, Daily Perales. Jordan Thompson was there. A bit tight-lipped. So he didn't really want to do any talking until his fight is announced. He is going up to heavyweight, so he will have his heavyweight debut. So we'll see what happens with him. So let me see if I can get up the top comments and go through some of them. I've got a general consensus here. And I will say, I think Robert Baker, 1983. I think that was one of them that's gone up. So shout out to you, Robert. Some people are saying it was 2-2 going into the 5th. They must have been saying it very quietly in a secluded place where nobody can hear them. One thing I do like about the boxing public is the sense of humour. So shout out to Robert Baker for that. Star Fox, one of my regulars, shout out to you. I think Star Fox and Skyliner, who I'm convinced are the same person. We had comments from both of them. Star Fox says the irony on Don telling people to be wary of what they put out into the universe after calling Usyk a cheater. I hope he gave his son the same speech after the Roadman outburst he had. Star Fox, I didn't think his outburst was Roadman. I thought he spoke quite eloquently. Like I said, we're getting more comments about it. It definitely wasn't 2-2 going into the 5th. I think there's some conflict as well, because Don actually said a different score on another channel, but I said I bet you he's watched the fight back a couple of times and has changed his mind a couple of times as well. A couple of people have come in with the Q comments. Elijah, is it Ali Jacobs 786? Shout out to you. October, interview Stan Dave Dubois and ask him why his Judgel Black Magic didn't work this time. Listen, I ain't asking him that. I don't even think he'd want to speak to me, to be fair. But a good question, a funny question. Somebody else could say that. Somebody else could ask that. .68 DG, I think Daniel was so well conditioned. Despite being dropped heavily, he was back at the night count, strong physically, but not ready to continue in time. He knew he was finished, and I'm glad the fight was stopped. Usyk, tricky southpaw, has Daniels and everyone else's number. There's no shame at all. I think somebody said I held my tongue at the 2-2 comment. Is it Aplengepe. I can't, sorry, I'm really terrible at pronouncing stuff. It's Aplengepe. A documentary about winning, celebration party before the fight. I've honestly never heard anything more delusional. I think the reason with this, you know, the celebration before the fight, like I said, it's something that they've done before, and it only became a problem when they lost. And yeah, you know, you hear everyone saying, you know, you positively put things out there. You say, yes, I am gonna win. It's, you know, all that manifestation stuff. It might be delusional to you. You may not understand it, but to me, I get it. And a documentary about winning, like I said, the documentary can still go out. It's just about his journey. It's probably going to be about his comeback now, because he has to have a comeback fight. So the documentary is still a good idea. A lot of fighters do documentaries. You just never see them. They never put them out. But I've been in a lot of gyms with a lot of fighters, and they've had people in there filming, and they're talking about a documentary, and I've never seen it. So it's probably still in progress, or they've decided not to put it out. Somebody said, is it R95 KFW? I think you're the best at asking the tough questions, but you've got to pull him up on his stuff when he says the fight was 2-2 going into the 5th. That wasn't close. Daniel was never in the fight. With me, when it comes to judging, because I don't know how to judge fights, and I did say in a few comments, I'm going to try and learn how to judge so I can really start to score the rounds myself. I tend to steer away, and because it's Don's interview, it's Don's conversation, I let him say what he feels is right. Should I have done my own judging? I probably would have went, Don, I had this, I had that, but I didn't, and that's why I didn't touch on that. But I do realise that's a weakness of mine, and something that does need to be addressed, because when these things, these situations happen, I need to be able to say, well, I've got my scorecard here, XYZ. So that's some positive feedback that I've taken from a few people, because everyone was sort of like 2-2 going into the 5th. So it's obvious that there's something that I could have done there. So I've taken that feedback on board. Raymond Hale says, when Don realised Dan wasn't going to get up, he threw in the towel. Smacks of honesty, the build-up and the aftermath. Learn from this and try a little humility. More comments about the 2-2. Let's have a look. A couple of people said he quit. There's been loads of comments on here, but I just wanted to address a couple of the top ones. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's review. The boxer conversation was the key point of this, so I want your feedback on what you think about it. As I've said before, I've got a few videos to put up today because I was in the Moss Side Fire Service Amateur Club, where Connor Tudsbury trains out of. So I've got Connor Tudsbury, I've got Alfie Middlemiss, and I've got the lovely Nigel Travis. That's obviously, it's all Jamie Moore's camp, isn't it? So I've got those 3 conversations to put out. And next week, I don't know if you've seen it in the notification tab, we're going to be doing 3 lives around Italma White. We're going to be going live after the first press conference. The press conference on Thursday. So probably about 7:30. Soon as that press conference finishes, I'll obviously be watching it, and then we're going to go live straight after that to debate that, all of us together. We're going to do exactly the same thing for the weigh-in, which is on the Friday. So as soon as that's finished, we're going live, and then fight night, obviously, we're going to go live then, because We're definitely not missing that. A lot of mixed opinions on that, but we'll talk about that when we get into the lives next week. But have a fabulous weekend. Keep the notifications on. I really appreciate all your support. Congratulations to myself that I've now secured a sponsor with Security Alert UK. Maximum Security, Minimum Fuss. I've plastered it everywhere. Have a look at their website. If you need any security services yourself, they also do close protection. Everything that you need is on their website. They used to, I think they do Wasserman. They did Boxer for Sky. They do other stuff as well. So they're well known, they're well out there. You will see them all around with their SA UK t-shirts. So yeah, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to finish my coffee, do some other bits and pieces, get those videos out, but I'll definitely be seeing you, all being well, next week. Have a fabulous weekend, and as we say, stay ready.
October Red is sponsored by SA Security. Maximum security, minimum fuss.